Yud, not Yud. I mean Vav.
Mishnah Vav, yeah.
Right. A prose bill may only be written for land. If he has none, he gives the title to part, however small, of his own field. If he has land held in pledge in the city, a prose bill may be written for it. Where the chutzpah says one may write for a man concerning his wife's property and for orphans concerning the guardian's property.
That's even though he personally doesn't own any property since he's married and his wife has property and it's nichse melug. So even that you can use as security for the prosbul.
Okay. A beehive, Rabbi Eliezer says, it is regarded as landed property, and a prose bill may be written on it, and it is not susceptible to uncleanness while it's in its place, and he who takes honey from it on Shabbos is liable. But the Chachamim say it is not regarded as landed property. A prose bill may not be written on, and is susceptible to uncleanliness while in its place, and he who takes honey from it on Sabbath is not liable. If one repays his debts in the seventh year, he must say to him, I remit it. And if he said to him, even so, he may accept it from him, since it is written. And this is the word of the release. Similarly, if a murderer went to an exile in the city of refuge, and the people of the city went to render honor to him, he must say to them, I am a murderer. If they said, even so, he may accept, since it is written, and this is the word of the slayer.
Right. So this was with this Mishnah. We also I think we taught it in Sota, or was it or Sanhedrin? I can't remember if it's Sota or Sanhedrin who get whether I think it's Sota when we're talking about the Ir Miklat. So
Right. That's all right.
right, we had the second half of this Mishnah in there as well.
I
Okay.
don't know. I didn't know what since it was Shabbat. I didn't know what comes after the Sheviis, what we were doing. So
We will find out. We're going to move on to Terumos in a few minutes.
okay, all right. I'll have to pull
Okay.
that.
Mishnah Tes Hamachzir Chov b'Shvius. If somebody returns a debt after Sheviis, it says in Sheviis, but it means after Sheviis, once he's no longer really liable for it. So we just learned in the previous Mishnah that you are allowed to pay it back. It's just that you don't have to. As long as you go through the dance where the lender says, "Listen, I'm shamet." It went over shmita, and the borrower says, "Still, I want to repay you." Says, "Okay," so
Right.
he can repay. And machzir shechov b'shvi is somebody who does this. Ruach chachamim nocha mimenu. The chachamim are happy with him. It's a good thing to vo alav bracha. Okay. Similarly, hanlove min hager shenisgairu banavimo. So let's say you have a family of non-Jews who all convert together, and a Jew borrows from the ger, and then the ger dies. So Me'ikar Adin, he doesn't have Yorshim because his children who converted with him are all like new babies who are born, and they're not halachically his heirs. Okay, so the Jew would be within his rights. The born Jew would be within his rights to hold on to the money and say, okay, there's nobody to repay, so I can keep the money. But if he returns his okay, I love him in a gershin is he doesn't have to return it to the sons. But if he did return it, then chachamim say shkoyach. That was the right thing to do. Yeah.
I was
Kol
thinking that.
ham.
I was thinking that some reason that he borrowed the money from him before he converted, and then because he converted, he
No,
didn't have.
no. It's even if he borrowed after he converted. They were both Jews at the time of the loan, except that
Right.
halachically a ger has no yorshim unless they were born to him after he became a ger.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Okay. Kol hamitaltelin niknin b'mashicha. All movable assets are only acquired by a mashicha or or a hagba or some other physical kinyan on the object. So if, for example, Reuven wants to buy Shimon's cow and he pays the money for the cow, the cow has not become his until he actually does a mashicha on the cow. Okay, and up until that point, Shimon can back out. You can say, I've actually changed my mind. Cows have become a valuable commodity. There was a fire in one of my main suppliers' cow sheds, and a lot of cows died, and our cows are worth more. So I want to back out of this deal.
Right.
So Me'ikar Adin, he's allowed to do that. And funny, I chose the word cow because if Shimon takes if Reuven now takes Shimon to Beis Din and says, I paid the money, I want the cow. And Shimon says, no, I don't want it. I'll give you your money back. So the Beis Din will say to him, okay, Shimon, you can give him back his money. Aval mishe para. This is para with an I and not para with a hey. Mishe para me dor mabel me dor plaga. Hashem will exact payment from somebody who doesn't keep his word.
Okay.
So that's the curse that they give to somebody who doesn't keep his word. So if somebody keeps his word, even though he's entitled to break the deal, then Chachamim are happy with him.
I'm sorry, because of my lack of knowledge, what's the difference between the hay and the iron with the para?
Para with a hay is a cow. Para with an iron is to exact payment.
Ah, okay, all right. I don't know those things. All right.
Okay.
Do you want the truma?
Terumos.
Trumas. Okay. Sorry.
All right. First Mishnah in Terumos. Chamisha lo yisramu be'im tarmu ein Terumos and Truma. So there are five classes of people who cannot take Truma, and even if they did go ahead and take Truma, the Truma is invalid and the produce remains tevel. Okay. Hacheresh hashote v'katan. Hacheresh, the deaf mute, that is, the shote is one who is an imbecile who is unable to look after themselves. I once actually had to ask Rav Haber, what is the definition of a shote? Because there was a guy who was like very learning disabled, and he one of his greatest joys was to daven from the Amud.
Really?
And I had a shaila as to whether he's actually allowed to be the shaliach tzibur, because perhaps he falls into the getter of a shoteh, because he was. I had that question. I didn't know until what level is somebody considered a shoteh? Just that he's slow, or that he's not just that he's slow, or that he's incapable of looking after himself. And that's basically what Rav Haber said, is if he is incapable of looking after himself, if he needs somebody else to make sure that he eats and dresses and whatever, then that's a shoteh. But if he's just sort of slow and then he's not considered a shoteh.
But did he ever daven from the Amud?
Yeah. So he was in that gather. He was like socially completely off and very, very unintelligent, but I think he could dress himself and feed himself and whatever. So he was enough on that side of the line that I didn't have to worry that he was a shoteh.
But he enjoyed davening from the Amud.
Enjoys davening from the Amud. One of his biggest joys. He was absolutely terrible at it. Had a horrible voice, but Diana, he let him have some joy in his life. Anyway,
I hate to say it, but that's why I hate to say it, but that's why I don't daven from the Amud. So
that's why you don't daven from the Amud.
Yeah.
Maybe because you're a shoteh?
No, hope not.
Okay. Shoteh v'katan, somebody under bar mitzvah. Okay, v'atorim es she'eno shelo, and somebody who takes truma on something that he doesn't have permission to take truma on. He takes. So if he walks into his neighbor's field and says, "Oh, let me do my neighbor a favor, I'll take truma for him," and he didn't. If he's a shaliach, okay, that's fine. A shaliach is allowed to take truma for you, but somebody who's just doing it because he thinks he's doing you a favor, that's invalid. It's not the produce remains tevel, and whatever he took is not truma either. It's still tevel. Okay. Nochri shetarim es shel Yisrael afilu b'rishus. If a non-Jew goes and takes truma, even if the Jew asked him to, says, just go and take this amount of produce, and I'll teach you how to do it. All the things, what to set aside for truma and for maaser and rishon and maaser sheni, etc. The guy can be bright as anything, and he knows exactly what to do, and he can even do it l'shem shemayim. But since he's not a Jew, he doesn't have the ability to make that havdalah between kodesh and chol. So therefore, his truma is not a truma, and the produce remains tevel. Okay, Mishnah base. Now this is talking about a half of the category. Normally, when we're talking, the Mishnah will explain now. So if you have somebody who is deaf but can talk, so for example, somebody who's born normal, and over his life his hearing degenerates until he's totally deaf, but he still knows how to speak. He can possibly lip read and speak himself. So this is so that he is they say lechatchila lo yisram. He shouldn't take truma. Why? Because the truma has to take in lechatchila with a bracha, and he can't make the bracha properly because he can't hear himself making the bracha. I mean, obviously, for all of his own personal brachas, he makes them, even though he can't hear them. But when you're asking somebody who, when you've got an option of getting somebody who can make the bracha in the best way, then that's a better way. Okay, but in taram truma satruma. But if he nonetheless went ahead and did it, it's valid. He's not considered the cheresh who's pasul from taking truma. A cheresh shedibru bo chachamim b'chol makom. In almost everywhere where the Mishnah refers to a cheresh, it's talking about she'eno lo shemea v'lo medaber. That's talking about somebody who was born deaf, who never learned how to speak, and has been thus crippled. I mean, nowadays it's an interesting question because you have, even for people who are stone deaf, you have cochlear implants, right, which have now given people the ability to hear in a fashion, and much improves their communication. And it seems that since they now have the ability to understand and hear to some extent, that they would be removed from this gather of a cheresh. Yeah, that's the Kahaji does mention one other place where the cheresh can also be referring to one who can speak. In Chagiga, we say that when people have to come to Yerushalayim 3 times a year, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. So there's a re'iyah. So everyone is chayiv in re'iyah except for the chereshot of the katan, and they explained in the Gemara that's also talking about the medaber v'eino shomea. He's patur from re'iyah. Okay.
I read an article a few weeks ago, and it was about this woman. I think she was born deaf and she couldn't speak. And if I have the whole thing right, it might get mixed up a little bit. But she came her parents insisted. All the other kids were normal. Their parents insisted, said, you're going to learn to sign. You're going to learn to sign. We're going to teach you. And she was from Germany. She learned German. She learned Hebrew. But by the time she finished, then they moved to France, so she had to learn to sign with French. And by the time she finished, she was like 5 languages, and she became this big person. She went to university. I think she got a PhD or something like that. And then she became an ambassador somewhere. I don't know how she did all this, but it was amazing. It was like this.
I love it. I absolutely love stories of people who are born with a handicap, and just like say, to heck with this handicap. I'm doing things with my life. And honestly, that's also one of the things that I really respect about my kidney recipient. He's exactly that kind of guy. Said, to heck with this. I need dialysis, big deal. So I'll travel and I'll organize dialysis in Amsterdam or whatever. And I'm going to study and I'm going to get on with my life. And that doesn't sit around feeling sorry for himself. Says, I'm going to do something with my life.
Right. It's amazing to see people. People they write books. They write, divrei Torah. People who can only use their eyes. I think there's this man in California, I think it is, who only can use his eyes. He writes divrei Torah. This rabbi, he has ALS, and incredible things. Just
Yeah. Okay, Sheviis. Ches hey.
Yes. Hey. Okay. Here we are. One may not give a well digger, a bath attendant, a barber, or a sailor, but one may give a well digger to drink, and to all one may give as a gift. Figs of the 7th year may not be laid out on a drying floor, but may be laid out on an empty site. And one may not tread grapes in a wine press, and one may tread them in a kneading trough. And one may not crush olives in an olive press or an olive crusher, but he may crush them and put them into a small olive press. Reb Shimon says he may even grind them in an olive press and put them into a small olive press. One may not cook 70 vegetables in truma oil lest he causes to become unfit, but Reb Shimon permits, and the last one becomes liable to the 70th year, and the produce itself is forbidden. Okay.
And Kilayim Vavches.
Okay. Oh, missed. You said Vavkes? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, if reeds protrade from the aris and he avoids cutting them short, it is permitted opposite them. If he acted thus so that the news should spread along them, it is forbidden. If a tendril protruded from the aris, it is regarded as a plummet or suspended from it, and is forbidden opposite, and likewise in the case of a single trellis vine, if one stretches a vine shoot from tree to tree, it is forbidden beneath it. If he extended it by means of a rope or reed grass, it is permitted under the extension, and if it made it so that the new spread should spread along it, it is forbidden. If one sinks a vine into the ground, if there is not a three tefachim of soil above it, he may not bring seeds on it, even if he sunk it into a gourd or a pipe. If he sunk it into a rock, then even if there are only three tefachim of soil above it, it is permitted to bring seeds on it, and the knee of a vine is measured from the second root. Okay. Okay. Tevel Yom.
No, Yadayim actually.
You're right. I have it. I just looked at the cover. Okay. Gimel. Hands become tame and become tahor only up to the joint. How
Stop.
so? No.
We're on Gimel base.
Base, yeah. I was turned the wrong way. If one poured the first waters in one place and the second waters in a different place.
Still not.
Sorry?
Gimel base. It says starts on line with kol haposel es truma, whatever makes truma invalid.
Why is that here? All right. Anything that disqualifies, I read the wrong thing yesterday. Anything that disqualifies truma renders hands tummy, causing them to become tummy to the degree of sheni. One hand can render its pair tummy. These are the words of Rabbi Shua. But the Chachamim say a sheni does not create another sheni. He said to them, these are the kisvei kodesh tummy to the degree of sheni, and yet they may render hands tummy. They said to him, we cannot deduce words from the Torah from words of the scribes, nor words of the scribes from the words of the Torah, nor words of the scribes from words of the scribes.
Right, so that's actually quite an interesting and important klal, is that when you're trying to make a kal v'chomer or a binyan av, you can do that with divrei Torah, to divrei Torah,
right?
Because those are the rules that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us for his for learning his Torah. But when Chachamim get involved, they make a specific gezerah for a specific reason. So when they made the gezerah on the when they made the gezerah on the Sifrei Kodesh, in order to make them be matame the yadayim, they said this is it was a specific reason why we did it in this case. You can't make a binyanav and say, oh, just like it was in this case, it'll be in the other case as well, because there was a specific case that they paskined on, and there's no. You don't have all of those principles of learning that you can say, oh, if it's a kal v'chomer, if the Chachamim said this, or it's binyan av, just like in this case they said it, in that case doesn't work. Okay.
Straps of tefillin that are together with the tefillin render tummy hands that touch them. Reb Shimon said straps of tefillin do not render tummy hands that touch them. In margins of a holy scroll, whether those on the top of the scroll or those on the bottom or at the beginning or at the end, render tummy hands that touch them. Rebbe Huda says the margin at the end of a scroll does not render hands tummy unless one made a roller for it.
Okay. Kalim, we're in the home track. Home stretch for Kalim.
The remnants of the blade from below its measure is 7 to 5.
No, we're in Perek Lamed Mishna Gimel.
Wow, I messed up. Wow, what happened? A cup, the majority of whose circumference chipped away, is tahor. It became chipped with 3 chips around the majority of its circumference. It is also tahor. If Reb Shimon says if the cup leaks a majority of its water, it's tahor. If the cup developed a hole and one repaired it, whether with tin or with pitch, it is tahor. Reb Yossi says if he plugs it with tin, it is tameh, but if with pitch, it is tahor. A small glass bottle whose neck was broken off is tameh, but a large bottle whose neck was broken off is tahor. The bottle for balsam oil whose neck was broken off is tahor because it will scratch one's hand. Large glass jars whose mouths broke off are tameh because one sets them aside for pickled things. A grinding funnel made of glass is tahor, and Rabbi Yossi says, "Fortunate are you, Kalim, for you have entered into tuma, but you have exited into hara."
And so he says that the last psak in Maseches Kalim is something that is to declare something tahor. So the beginning of Kalim was talking about what's tameh, all the definitions of levels of tuma, and now we're ending off Kalim with tara, and Rabbi Yossi says this is a good way to do it. You started with tuma, you ended with tara. Hadran alach Maseches Kalim.
I remember when we did this the first time, you were very excited that that's how it ended. You said it was such a nice way to end it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that ends the largest Masechta in Mishnayos.
Right.
That's the one. Whenever they're doing the Lezeiche Nishmas, it's like nobody takes Kalim. Okay. Orlos. One Mishnah from Orlos.
Okay. The two can become tameh from a corpse. One becomes tameh for 7 days, and one becomes tameh until evening. 3 can become tameh from a corpse. 2 of them become tameh for 7 days, and one becomes tameh until evening. 4 can become tameh from a corpse. 3 of them become tameh for 7 days, and one becomes tameh until evening. How do they become tameh? A person who touches a corpse becomes tameh for 7 days, and a person who touches him becomes tameh until evening.
Okay, so we're learning now how the corpse tumah is transmitted in 3 different ways, in which you can have 2, 3, or 4 people who, for participants, let's call them actors, in the chain of tumah, and it's possible to have up to 3 of them becoming tameh mace.
That's not right.
Okay, and we'll learn the rest of those tomorrow. Sheviis.
Sheviis.
Yes, Vav. Hey, we're going to do another siyum today. Wow, this is a record. We're doing 3 siyumim in one day.
Vav. If he said to him, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "I don't know what you are talking about," whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, was captured, stolen, or lost, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," he's liable. If one said to a paid shomer or to a renter, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "It died," where in fact it broke a limb or was captured, or he replied, "It broke a limb," whereas in fact it died or was captured, and he replied, "It was captured," whereas in fact it died and broke a limb, or he replied, "It was stolen," whereas in fact it was lost, and he replied, "It was lost," whereas in fact it was stolen, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," he is exempt. But if he replied it died and broke a limb, or it was captured, whereas in fact it was stolen or lost, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," he is liable. If he replied it is lost, or it was stolen, whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, or was captured, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," he is exempt. This is the rule. Whoever changes from one liability to another liability, from one exemption to another exemption, or from an exemption to a liability is exempt, and from a liability to an exemption is liable. This is the rule. Whoever swears to make it more lenient for himself is liable to make it more stringent for himself and is exempt.
And actually, the last sentence is not really meduyak, because even equal, even if the liability is equal, either he moved it from a patur to patur or chova to chova, he's patur. Okay. Hadran alach Maseches Sheviis. Adios.
Okay. Shammai says all women it suffices for them their time, but Hillel says from examination to examination, even for many days.
Is this the first time? I think this is the first time that we've done Adios since we learned Maseches Nida, right? I think it
so.
is.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that it is.
Even for many days, and the comments say neither in accordance with the words of this one and neither in accordance with the words of that one. Rather, 24 hours reduces from examination to examination, and from examination to examination reduces 24 hours. Any woman who has a fixed period, it suffices for her time. When a woman has marital relations with examination cloth, this is the equivalent of an examination. It reduces 24 hours and from examination to examination. Shammai says challah is due from one kav, but Hill says from two kavs, and the Chachamim say neither in accordance with the words of this one nor in accordance with the words of that one. Rather, a kav and a half is liable to challah, and when the units were increased, they said 5 revayim are subject to challah. Rabbi Yossi says 5 revayim are exempt. 5 plus are liable. Okay. All right.
Finally, Tanis Dalad Dalad.
On any day when Hallel is recited, there is no mamad at Shakras. Whenever there is a Musaf sacrifice, there is no mamad even at Nila. Whenever there is a wood offering, there is no mamad at Mincha, and this is Rakiva's view. But as I said to him, Rabbi Shua would learn this way. Whenever there is a Musaf sacrifice, there is no mamad at Mincha. Wherever there is a wood offering, there is no mamad at Nila. Rabbi Akiva retracted in order to comply with Ben Azai. The wood festival of the Kohanim and the people was celebrated 9 times a year. On the 1st of Nisan, the family of Arak of the tribe of Yehuda did so. On the 20th of Tammuz, the family of David of the tribe of Yehuda did so. On the 5th of Av, the family of Parosh of the tribe of Yehuda did so. And on the 7th month, the family of Yonadab, the family of Rechab, did so. On the 10th of that month, the family of Sinai of the tribe of Binyamin did so. On the 15th of that month, the family of Zatu of the tribe of Yehuda did so, and along with them were Kohanim and Leviim and anyone who was uncertain of his tribe, and the family of the pestle smugglers, the family of the fig cutters did so, and on the 20th of the month, the family of the Pakas Moab of the tribe of Yehuda did so. On the 20th Elul, the family of Adon of the tribe of Yehuda did so, and on the 1st of Tevis, the family of Paros returned a second time. On the 1st of Tevis, there was no mamad, since Hallel was recited, and a Musaf offering, a Musaf sacrifice, and a wood offering were brought thereupon. 5 incidents befell our ancestors on the 17th of Tammuz and 5 on the 9th of Av. On the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken. The continual daily offerings was discontinued. The citadel wall was breached. Apostomus burned the Torah and placed an image in the sanctuary. On the 9th of Av, it was decreed upon our ancestors that they would not enter the land. The temple was destroyed for the first time and the second time, and Beitar was conquered and the city was plowed under. Therefore, when Av begins, we curtail joy.
Can.
All right.
That's us.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will see you, Mr. Hashem, tomorrow.
Yetz Hashem. Have a lovely day and a lovely week.
Before you go, wait. I just dropped